And we are recording. So welcome again to today's Honors in the Major History event. Again, my name is Dr. Michael Franklin. I am a honors faculty member and assistant director for Honors in the Major here at FSU. And to get things started, Dr. Grant is going to share a few words from his perspective as the honors liaison for your department. So take it away, Dr. Grant.
Okay, well, thank you. It's wonderful to see you all, muted or unmuted, as the case may be. I just wanted to give a quick overview of what the expectations are for the Honors in the Major thesis for history and the process that you go through, and then I'll be happy to take any questions anybody has about that. We have, so for history, it is a thesis. It is a document that you do. And the expectation is that the final document will be in the 40 to 50 page range in length. The model is a scholarly journal article, not a book. You don't need to be thinking in terms of chapters for a book. It's one piece, like an article. It would have an introduction, a body, and conclusion, but you don't have to, you're not writing a magnum opus here. It's supposed to be, again, the model is like a lengthy journal article. You will need a committee, and your committee consists of 3 faculty members. There is the director or the advisor or the major professor, and that person must be a member of the history department. And then the second member must also be a faculty member in the history department. The third member, the outside member, must not be in the history department, must be outside of the history. So you can't have 3 history faculty members on your committee. And as you are writing, you will exchange drafts initially just with your directing professor until the director says it's ready to be passed to the other 2 committee members, and then they get it. So this is to prevent, you shouldn't be sending it to all 3 at the same time. That sort of can create confusion, and you might get pulled in 20 different directions. So you're working most closely with the major professor of the 3 faculty members. There is a course that you enroll in for this. Typically, it's a 2-semester process. And so the course is HIS 4936, the honors thesis course. And Ms. Kozar will create this course for you. So it's something that only you can enroll in, that particular section, because it is just for you. It is your honors thesis. But it is a full 3-credit letter graded class. So you do get a letter grade. It's not S or U. There is a letter grade attached to it. And you'll enroll in that class each of the semesters that you're working on the honors thesis. What you get the letter grade for in the first semester is your prospectus paper. So that's the paper that's carries the grade in the first semester. And the prospectus paper is usually 10 to 15 pages. In the prospectus is basically your sort of roadmap and plan of attack for your topic. So you identify what your what your research question is, what the historical problem is under study. You place your study in the scholarship as you have become aware of it to that point. And you identify the primary sources that make your project viable. And so you will work this paper up again first with your major professor, and then it gets passed to the other 2 committee members, and all 3 committee members have to sign approval on the prospectus, usually before the midpoint in the semester. So you'll get the letter grade for it at the end of the semester, but typically the prospectus is approved well before the end of the semester. And then in the second semester, that again you enroll for HIS 4936, you take the 3-credit course, and that's typically the semester when you write and defend the honors thesis. And the defense is a 1-hour oral defense with your entire committee there. During the defense, each one of your committee members will ask you questions. So each committee member usually takes about 15, 20 minutes, depending. And usually the major professor goes last. So you hear first from the other two committee members because you've been working most closely with the major professor up to that point. I want to assure you that the defense is solely about your document. It is not an oral exam over every course you've had since kindergarten or an examination of your academic record or anything like that. It's defense of your thesis document. That's what the discussion is about. So it's about your work. The questions may be very specific. On page 12, footnote 3, you write this. They may be very broad. If you were to start this project today, knowing what you know now, would you do anything different? And anything in between. It's about your document. So the defense is really a conversation about your work in which you explain or justify why you did it the way you did it and why you think your conclusions are valid and significant. It's also very common for there to be revisions of your document after the defense. So the defense may very well be successful. You have passed the defense, but you still have to make some changes in the document before it goes for final deposit. That is normal thing. So it doesn't mean you failed because you have to make some changes in the document after the defense. The deadline for the defense is well before the end of the semester. So you want to shoot for, holding your defense, around the middle of the semester towards the second, third is sort of the optimal time for the defense. Okay. Beyond that, to get started, you will need some signatures with your initial application. So you will have to have lined up a major professor. The major professor needs to sign your form. I need to sign your form as the honors liaison for history. Dr. Gray, the department chair, needs to sign your form. So those are 3 signatures you're going to have to chase down to start this process. But unless I'm on your committee, you won't need my signature again. I'm just as the liaison. So, if you have any questions, again, I'll be happy to take any of those questions. But with that, I'll pass it back to you, Michael.
Hi. So I am going to give a high-level overview now with a PowerPoint of honors in the major with respect to resources available to you and just to build upon what Dr. Grant shared to help you further have knowledge of what you would be getting into should you sign up for it. So just a moment while I get this underway. So first and foremost, what I like to emphasize is that honors in the major is open to everybody. And I think that students understandably can collapse honors in the major with the university honors, well, with the honors program. They may think it's one and the same, and therefore when they hear honors in the major, they may think this is not for me since I'm not in the honors program. This is not something that I can do or that I should do. Not at all. There are 2 separate honors programs that both live within university honors. And in short, entrance into the one is not a guarantee that you get into the other one. And in fact, it's an entirely different process. So for the purpose of our meeting today, I just want to stress honors in the major is open to everybody if you meet basic criteria that are listed here. Certainly you have to be a current FSU student and you have to be accepted into your major at the time of application. So in other words, when you apply, you have to already be declared a history major and it has to say as such on your academic record. You have to have a minimum 3.20 GPA, that's FSU, and if you're a transfer student, cumulative as well. And that is, you have to maintain that GPA or higher throughout the duration of the program and have it, that requirement be met at the time of graduation in order to receive this recognition. At the time of application, you have to be on track for completing at least 60 credit hours by the end of this semester in which you're applying. And similarly, if you are a transfer student, you have to have finished by the end of that semester 12 hours at FSU. The majority of people have above 60 hours whenever they apply, but this is something that if you're a transfer student, you're eligible to apply should you want to in your very first semester at FSU. And then finally, the biggest component that I like to stress at this juncture, at least in these presentations, is when you do apply, you need to have at least 2 semesters left after the semester of application. before you graduate. So for example, to use right now as an example, should you apply this semester, you would need to be graduating no earlier than summer of 2021 in order to be able to earn this recognition. Now, do you have to wait until your final 2 semesters? No. And oftentimes students will apply and start this early. We'll talk about some reasons why that may be a good idea if you're in a situation that's amenable to that. But you need at least 2 full semesters. Some are counting if you wish for it to count, but 2 full semesters to complete the honors thesis program. Now, again, I'm giving a high-level overview and the information that Dr. Grant provided. All of this is in the Honors in the Major Handbook, which you can find on our website. Use your favorite search engine to find it. I'll be sending out a PDF after this presentation today of this presentation. You can take the hyperlink, but in short, it really breaks down the responsibilities of the people that Dr. Grant mentioned, including yourself as the student. It discusses the life cycle of the honors thesis in detail from the application all the way to the oral defense. It discusses resources, best practices. There's a frequently asked questions section. Anything and everything you could probably ever want to know about honors in the major is in this handbook. So it really is a good place for you to go to if you are thinking about this, because again, it can really demystify what is expected of you at each stage in the program. Now, why would you want to even do an honors thesis? And I think oftentimes that's a question I'll get from students. Why would I even want to do this? I don't need to do this to graduate. That sounds like a lot of work. Why would I want to do this? Well, for me, I help students think about how it is that they can prepare themselves for success in whatever they're pursuing in life after FSU. And whatever you are going to pursue, you need ways that are going to, help yourself stand apart, stand out in good ways. You need experiences and ideally work that is distinguishing, that's unique to you. This is an opportunity to do so. And in doing so, you will be growing throughout this process of 2 semesters or 3. You can do a 3-semester thesis sometimes too. One way in which a student will grow is personally. So not only are you committing to a project that you are devising with collaboration from your thesis director on a topic that ideally you're passionate about, but you're doing so in a way that you're, responsible for seeing it through all the steps that I referred to the handbook containing. And as such, there are going to be times where in the midst of this, probably in your 2nd semester, you're going to be pulling your hair out and asking, why did I even do this? I didn't even need to do this to graduate. And then you will get through that because it is a common feeling, and you will consult your thesis director, you will reassess your plan, and you will move forward to that finish line. I like to use the metaphor of, running a marathon. It's not easy. It's a lot of work. It takes some preparation. It may feel like hell during part of it, but you'll have a tremendous sense of accomplishment at the end of this, as well as a really cool thesis that you can use, for writing samples for grad school, that you can maybe look at publishing and so on. And indeed, you also then will grow professionally throughout this process as well, precisely through that collaborative work with your thesis director. They will be helping you learn the ropes precisely because you're a novice researcher. You're not expected to know how to do all of this, and this is a learning opportunity, even though it is an independent project. So this is a project you are choosing and that you are putting together. You're managing that project, so you are learning not only how, to do research in the field of history, but you also are, learning time management skills, project management skills, and so on. And in doing so, at the end of this, you're going to be able to ideally get some really awesome letters of recommendation from people on your committee, from your thesis director, who have seen you operate in an independent setting outside of the classroom through, knowledge production. So in other words, it's something that, again, we come back to distinguishing, complex, unique, something that they can speak of that is going to be very different from a more standard letter of recommendation, in which they'll talk about a classroom project or performance, but it's very classroom bound. So you really can grow in these particular ways that will help you have a competitive edge at the point of, again, applying to graduate school, law school, or med school. Maybe you're thinking of a Fulbright or some other national fellowship. Maybe you have your eyes on a job market right away. You want to be able to stand out in ways that you can talk about and demonstrate all the skills and value you got of this experience, so as to show the person interviewing you what you have to offer. This is a program that will very, very, very much help you do that. So with regard to where to go if you are interested, first and foremost, you want to brainstorm. So as far as what am I going to work on, that's where you start looking around you, talking to faculty with whom you've had classes, maybe you've made good grades in, talking with faculty maybe you've not had classes with, but going to their office hours because you're interested in their research. Looking at top journals in your subfield to get a sense of what topics are people talking about and writing about in the field right now. And is there anything that jumps out to me that I find fascinating? These are ways and more in which you can just, feed your brain and generate ideas. You also have the option of consulting theses students at FSU in history have completed in previous semesters. The library maintains an archive of these called Digital, and you can pull them up to see not only the thesis itself and read that thesis, you can look at how the student arranged the thesis, put it together, what kind of sources they used. You also can see who was their thesis director and on their committee. And in doing so, that can help give you possibility models and demystify this process in another way. I've listed some examples here that are quite recent, name, title of their thesis. There have been 45 honors theses in history completed since 2009. So you have ample opportunity to go in and look at a number of those based upon your interests to get an idea of what does an honors thesis in history look like. Once you have a sense of, a topic that you are interested in, you will certainly be wanting to network with thesis directors to get a sense of who you may want to work with on that. So again, you want to think of classes you've had in which you've done well as one way to connect with thesis directors. If you're connecting with a faculty member in history who you've not had a class with yet, but you are interested in their research, that does happen. Students absolutely will work with faculty they've not had a class with yet. You want to make a good first impression when you send that email introducing yourself, sharing your brief idea, briefly stating why you're interested in working with them. And I always recommend send a small writing sample, right? So a paper you wrote for a history class that you feel well illustrates your writing, your abilities. Those are things that can pique the interest of the faculty member to see if they would be interested in chatting with you more about the possibility of working together on a thesis. You also want to talk with your advisor just about how the thesis credits will fit into your overall curricular plan and how you'll get registered and so on, but your advisor will help you understand that. You are registering for, in total, a minimum of 6 credits that we require, and you do have to pay tuition for them. So oftentimes I know those will fit, those will meet requirements for electives, et cetera. Your advisor isn't going to be the expert in that, so talk to them about that. And ultimately, once you do find that thesis director through the topic, you'll be ready to apply. Now, we'll talk about the deadline to apply in a moment, but before we do that, I do want to point out there are funding opportunities available to students doing undergraduate research at FSU. If you have a lot of time between now and when you're going to graduate, you may want to consider applying to the IDEA Grant Program, which is a program offered through the Center of Undergraduate Research and Academic Engagement at FSU. The deadline to apply for next academic year is February, this upcoming February, as you can see. And it is a program that you will, in collaboration with the faculty member, put together an application that proposes a year-long research project. And if your application is one of the many that they will select, you get funding to support that. So in that application, you put a budget in. COVID has, of course, turned things all around these days. So their funding levels have changed some, but I do believe as an individual project through them for the next academic year, you can get up to $2,000. If you're applying as a team, maybe you're doing a digital humanities project or something, you can get up to $3,000. But that is one really good way to A, get experience doing research, and B, it's a way that I've seen students not only explore their interests, but they've utilized work they've done through the IDEA Grant Program toward the thesis. They've continued that project in newer iterations to develop it. So that is one opportunity for students before the thesis. During the thesis, there's funding available. So during the fall and the spring, we give thesis awards, multiple ones. We give as many as we can, but to students who need money to support their research. This could be that you need money to, buy books, for instance, is one example. This is a way in which you can do that. You can build your library by saying, these books I need for my research. You put the application together, and it can be a way that you can get money. These are ways that these are lines that you can add on your CV or resume as well. So again, thinking about what you're doing after FSU, saying that you got a grant, that you got money, that's another good way to stand out and to feed your research. So I won't read through these minimum requirements again, but I will point out the deadline to apply to start a thesis this spring, coming up spring, is November 20th. So you've got some time to, continue to begin thinking, to begin talking, if that's a date that interests you. If you are interested more in applying sometime later on in 2021, the next deadline to apply will be in April. We've not finalized the date yet because I think we were waiting for the university to make up its mind about spring break. So in short, look on our website for the April deadline, but in April, you'll be able to apply for starting a thesis either in the summer or in the fall. It's the same deadline for both. As Dr. Grant said, though, that application process just requires you not only to have an idea with a working title and a thesis director lined up, but the signatures that he referred to. And that's essentially it for the application. I'm happy to talk about any and all of this more if you have any questions now. And as I said, after our session today, I'm sending out a PDF with presentations you'll see. I'll also include my office hours so that if you, in thinking through this, have more questions that come to you afterwards, you're welcome to come see me during my drop-in office hours and we can chat. Any questions from anybody? Okay, well, we will have plenty of time to ask. I do want to pivot now to Christina.
I think Emma wanted to ask a question if I saw that correctly.
Yes, go for it. Sorry.
Sorry.
Hey, no, it's okay.
Per requirements, typically, what year do people typically start their honor thesis? Because I'm a sophomore right now, and I don't think I have enough credits, but the credit system kind of confuses me.
That's a great question, and I realized I completely forgot to address that, so I'm glad you asked. Most people will do it in their final 2 semesters. That's fine, and they are successful, they have it, but for those people who start it before their final 2 semesters, and at least they give themselves 1 semester before they graduate, they've got, at the end of it, an awesome writing sample. I know that if they finish it a year before they graduate, there have been honors thesis students who love their project so much and they see so much possibility for it, they've applied to national fellowships and gotten them. And they have the time to work with the Office of National Fellowships on campus to, let's say, put a Fulbright application together. So most people will finish it in their final year at FSU in their final 2 semesters. Fewer finish it earlier, but you absolutely can finish it earlier if you wish. And I think that's a good idea because it opens up opportunities for you that you may wish to pursue having gone through the experience.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, if you have more questions, I'll be happy to answer them later on. I do want to have Christina, our current honors in the major student, kind of share some of her experience and recommendations and take it away.
Hi, my name is Christina. I'm a senior in the history department. So I first became interested in doing honors in the major because I just wanted the academic experience of doing an independent research project and writing a thesis, writing a paper of that length to prepare me for law school and my career. But when I found a topic that I was really passionate about, which my topic is studying the history of the largest women's prison in Florida, then that became the main reason for me to pursue the project because I think women's incarceration is very understudied and I want to contribute to it in some way. Overall, I've really enjoyed my experience in honors in the major. I like having my own project that I can choose the direction of but still have guidance on it when I need it. It is very much an independent project, so my experience has been a lot of keeping myself organized, keeping myself on a schedule. Also, I've had to adapt my research methods because of COVID. I plan to visit the prison and the state archives, but with COVID, that's not possible. So I ended up extending my thesis for a semester into 3 semesters. So I'm working with what I can access, and I'm lucky that for my project, there's a lot of resources at Stroger and in special collections. I've definitely gotten a lot out of my experience personally. I've learned so much about my topic. It's really changed my perspective on incarceration in the United States and has influenced what I want to do for my career. Now I know that I want to work in civil rights law. I've also learned to motivate myself and keep myself accountable and adapt to challenges like COVID. I also think that writing my prospectus has improved my writing skills, and I think they will continue to improve when I move on to writing my thesis. For anyone who's considering honors in the major, I would say that the most important thing you can do is choose a topic that you're passionate about. Like if you pick a topic that you don't really care about just for the sake of doing a thesis, then it's going to be very hard for you to motivate yourself to keep working on it because it's such like an individualized project. But if you believe in the importance of the research that you're doing and like see how it can contribute to a larger cause, then I think you're gonna work harder and get more out of it. Also, I was originally planning on doing 2 semesters because like that's what everyone does, but I extended it to 3 and I'm really glad that I did. And I think it will make my project stronger. So I would say keep that in mind as an option for you if it fits in with your schedule. And if anyone has any questions, I would be happy to answer them. But I think speaking next is my thesis director, Dr. Renfro.
Yeah, if nobody has any questions for Christina at this time, I just wanted to underscore, I think what a few people have said and what Christina said, that this is really a unique opportunity for students to explore an issue or a phenomenon about which they're passionate and curious and in which they're particularly interested. So, you know, rather than kind of trying to find that topic, I mean, it should kind of speak to you and it should kind of strike you, I suppose. So, and don't try to appease necessarily your committee or the thesis director, right? Or just try to kind of adhere to what people maybe in a subfield or a field are talking about. Really, I mean, whatever you want to study and study in depth, you can do. So students, I think, are encouraged to think outside the box, so to speak, in conceptualizing their projects. And I think some of the projects that I've advised or on which I'm serving committees for kind of exemplify this. So for instance, I'm advising or serving on committees for theses that focus on the superhero Iron Man as a cultural and political phenomenon. Definitely not a topic that I ever would have kind of thought of, but you know, it's working. There's another one on Chick-fil-A and this is actually in the Department of Religion, but Chick-fil-A as a religious and commercial force in American and particularly Southern life. And also Christina's thesis, I would kind of demonstrate or kind of hold up as an example of a really creative one, one that kind of takes a really, really important and serious topic, but which focuses on it from a kind of local angle and also from an angle that most people don't consider or is chronically understudied within the academy and within kind of carceral studies and the history of mass incarceration. And last year, and this was noted on one of Dr. Franklin's slides, I advised Mallory McGovern's honors thesis, which concentrated on punk rock and feminism in Leeds, England, and Los Angeles. And, you know, all the credit is due to the students themselves who have kind of formulated these topics. You know, as an advisor or as somebody who's serving on a committee, I have maybe helped to shape these in some way and help to maybe steer students in a particular direction when it comes to research materials that they might consult, either primary sources or secondary sources, but really it was up to the students. And I think that's an incredibly exciting thing, right? It's not something that's being kind of dictated from the top down. This is really organic, and I think that leads to really strong and really interesting projects. So I wanted just to underscore really, since Drs. Grant and Franklin really emphasized kind of the logistics of this, but I wanted to kind of emphasize how much latitude students have in crafting their projects, and that's really what makes this, I think, so special. Does anyone have any questions for me or Christina or anybody? If not, I guess I'll kick it back to Dr. Franklin.
Yeah, I think Cathy is going to be sharing some information with us now with respect to the Career Center and services she has to offer for you all, as again, we're thinking about, doing these signature projects and looking to life beyond FSU. So Cathy.
Thank you, Dr. Franklin. Hope everyone can see the screen. Essentially, today I'll be telling you a little bit about the Garden and Gold Scholar Society. I work as Assistant Director for Experiential Learning at the Career Center, and I'm also your History Career Liaison. So I'm a good resource if you have any questions about this program. This is a university-wide recognized program. We work with campus partners across FSU to recognize your experience beyond the classroom. You're going above and beyond, and we want to make sure that you are being recognized in different ways. So I want to tell you a little bit about that. The Garden and Gold Scholar Society is a program that you can customize. The main criteria is that you fulfill 3 out of the 5 engagement areas, and research is one of them. So that's why I'm here. This program allows an opportunity to set you apart for different opportunities when you're applying, as Dr. Franklin said, to fellowships, graduate school programs, and even future employment. This is a great way to showcase your experience. It actually shows up on your transcripts. So when you're applying to graduate school, that's something else that you can't have on there. You can also include it, of course, on your resume and any of your other application materials. In addition to that, you will receive a special recognition at graduation, and you'll receive a medal from President Thrasher for fulfilling all the criteria and really finishing off with a bang at FSU. And then finally, you will have your own personal induction ceremony where you will receive the medal directly from President Thrasher, hopefully when all things are back to normal. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to let me know. As I mentioned, one of the areas is research area. In addition to that, we have international, service, leadership, and internship. So if you've in the past done any of these, you could definitely qualify for this opportunity. But for those that are thinking about doing research, you can go ahead and look into this opportunity now to see if this is something you're interested in. There are various ways to fulfill the research area, but one of the most common ways in humanities is through the honors in the major program. So I want to make sure that you're aware that you can also get another recognition by doing this work. So how to apply? Basically, you just go to the Garden and Gold Scholar Society website. We do have a tab for join, and you can go ahead and join today if you want to. If you have, it's basically an intention to apply to the program. So you'll be able to select your 3 engagement areas, including research, and you can change these at any time. You'll basically be fulfilling the criteria as you go through your FSU experience. And as you fulfill each of the areas. At the end, you will be writing a synthesis reflection of your experience in research. So essentially the goal is that you've done all this work in your research project. So now this is an opportunity to articulate your experience through this project, what skills you've gained, so that you're able to express this opportunity to future employers or to graduate school in a personal statement, for example. So this is going to help you in many different ways and give you even more opportunity to get that recognition. So if you have any questions, feel free to meet with me through email or drop in hours. Also, we do have an office specifically for this program, so you can reach out to them and check out the website for more details. And then finally, throughout this experience, you can select an overall program advisor who's either on our list of overall program advisors, or you can select your own advisor that you know, and they can help guide you through the process. So you'll know exactly when the deadlines are and if you have any questions about the project itself. So that's essentially it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And any questions from anybody? I think that's concludes today's speakers. I think any of us are happy to answer any questions that you all may have, if there's anything you want to hear more about.
Can I ask a question?
Go for it.
I'd like to ask a question of Christina, if you can. Do you think you could tell us a little bit about how much time is actually involved doing this, and if it's like a lot of time all the time, or if it comes in waves, and how best to structure that, the honors and the major time commitment with all your other things?
So the way that I kind of do it is I like pretend it's a class. So like I'll have a time in my schedule like each week, like, okay, this is when I'm gonna like set aside time to like work on my thesis. So it is like I try to treat it like it's 3 credit hours worth of work. I think that workload will become more though as I move into next semester and start writing my thesis. But I think it also depends like on the person, because it's such like an individualized project, like how much you want to put into it, because like what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it, and that will make your project stronger.
Thank you.
I have a question. So is this class like the same thing as like the final thesis class that we have to take before we graduate?
Do you mean the senior seminar class?
Yes.
Okay, no, it's a different class.
Okay.
Yeah, so the senior seminar is required for the major. The honors thesis is not required for the major. It is something additional.
All right.
And if I can build on it just really briefly, it's not a class in the traditional sense that you're meeting with a group of people. It's like a DIS if you've ever done a directed individual study. So it's just a one-on-one, as Christina has shared with her experience. So.
All right.
So I have a quick question for Ms. Barrios. I'm currently in the UROP program. How does that affect being in the honors in the major program?
There are different ways to designate your experience. So research is considered experiential learning in some ways. So you should definitely talk to one of our advisors or myself to discuss how we can designate this program to meet one of the other areas.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question as well. It's more of a general question, but if we are planning to dual major, does it have to be like on both majors, or will it just be easy enough to just choose one, like history?
You got it. You choose one. So even if if anybody was double majoring, triple majoring, I want to do honors in the major and all of my majors, we would be like, sorry, you have to choose one. Because it's just the way that it works with regard to university recognition. You get the one recognition in the major. That said, there are ways in which, and you want to talk with your thesis director about it, of thinking about a project that still speaks to your other major within the major that you choose. And as Dr. Grant mentioned earlier, the committee you put together, there's your thesis director, and then there are 2 faculty members, one from your major, one from outside of your major. And you have a 4th optional committee member too. Most people don't have a 4th member, but you can choose a 4th one if you wish. I have seen students who are double majoring combine it in that particular way. They do a project that's appropriate for their discipline, the discipline of their major, but they still are utilizing their other major to inform it to come up with a really cool project. So there are ways in which you can draw from your other major or majors.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I have another question, and this one's like a bit of hypothetical question. So say I want to start like this class in spring. Do I have to like continue it for like the summer of 2021, or do I have the option to have a break from class for summer and continue it in the fall of 2021?
That's a great question, and thank you for asking it, because I forgot to clarify that point. The second scenario you presented is what it would be. So if any student applies to begin in the spring, we don't require that they register in the summer. If they want to, and they want the summer to count because it's like, I want to get this out of the way before the fall begins, you can. But the vast majority of students, I think, take the summer off because they're not registering anyway. They don't want to have to pay the fees with the tuition, et cetera, et cetera. That said, even if they're not registered technically for the summer, I still recommend think with your thesis director about how are you going to, at least with your brain, maintain momentum on this project so that it's not lying fallow for 3 or 4 months and then you have to kind of regain that momentum at the start of the fall semester. So that, I mean, there are ways in which you can do that where it's still manageable with whatever other summer plans you may have, but it wouldn't be the level of work that you would be putting in if you were registered. So yeah, you don't have to register for the summer. You can absolutely take it off and then pick it back up again in the fall. On the other hand, we don't permit students to say like, oh, I'm starting in the fall, but I want to take the spring off and then I'll start it again next fall. Like, you can't do that. Like, once you start in the spring or fall, you have to take the subsequent spring or fall semesters until you complete. Summer, in other words, is the only semester you have that option of taking off. So does that answer your, oh yeah.
Yes, and I also have another question. Do you know the exact cost of this class?
I don't.
Money.
Your advisor will know that. So
all right.
I know it's like tuition. Yeah, I'm not even going to try to speculate and speak. I'll get it wrong. And then you'll say, Dr. Franklin said this, and then I'll, have that on my face. So go talk to your advisor. I feel very confident they're going to give you the right answer. So.
All right.
How many credits is the class worth overall?
So most typically people will take 3 credits per semester. And since most people will complete a 2-semester thesis, by the end of the thesis, they'll have met the 6 credit minimum. For people like Christina, as she shared with her experience, if they email me and they say, I need a 3rd semester, or it was their plan all along, they have the option of approaching that any number of ways based upon how far in advance they know. Some departments will require you to take a set level of credits per semester, but in short, let's say you were in a situation where you decided I need an additional semester. Once you meet that 6 minimum, you still have to register for the 3rd semester, but it can be just for 1 credit. If you know in advance, I am only doing a thesis, or I'm doing a thesis over 3 semesters, and it works for your schedule, it works for your department, you could technically register for 2 credits per semester. And then at the end, you still have met that 6 credit minimum. But I think part of it too is like with what Christina was saying, you also want to take into account how much work out of my school schedule am I going to need each semester to do this? And does 2 hours reflect that? So that I have the bandwidth to do the work that I need to do each semester. So again, that's a conversation you could have with your thesis director.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Yeah, about how many students are in the honors program at a time?
I would say at a time around, varies from, I'd say 200 to 250. The most popular wave is for students starting in the fall and then graduating and finishing in the spring. So for example, like I just kind of spent most of my day-to-day processing submissions around the prospectus, which is what people do in their 1st semester. And I think off the top of my head, it's like 125 of those. So COVID understandably has made people feel like I have enough on my plate just to live and to focus on my classes. So I think that impacted to a small extent, but still the number of people who applied to start this fall semester. But generally it's between 200 and 250 is the ballpark that we see. There have been at FSU since 2009, about 1,500 theses completed across the university in all disciplines. History is one of the higher participating programs historically. So, but yeah, that's what you see at any given moment, around 200 to 250.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question, I suppose. So 40 to 50 pages for a lot of students might seem very daunting. So I guess I should ask Christina and maybe some other folks, how students tend to approach this and make it manageable, because it is manageable, but again, it can be somewhat intimidating.
I know for me, I've never written anything close to 40 to 50 pages. So I do feel intimidated by it. I guess like right now I'm like trying to focus on like what can I do to like make it easier for me to write that amount by like having enough content to write about, and like taking notes on like observations that I'm making now that I can then elaborate on for my thesis. Um, it is intimidating, but I feel like there's like so much to my topic that I feel like I'll be able to do it, but it is a challenge.
Whenever sorry. Was somebody else going to speak? Oh, whenever I work with students regarding these, what feel like insurmountable tasks, because I used to advise people writing dissertations like really extensively, and these would be similar questions they would ask. How am I ever going to write something that's 200, 300 pages long? And really one of the lessons I got in graduate school from my thesis advisor in grad school was just, developing, and I'm sure you may have heard this too, you cultivate a daily practice where you sit down and you have a daily writing goal. Maybe it's a word count. So for some people, it's like, I'm going to write 1 page a day. On the other hand, for me, it was time amount. I'm going to write 1 hour a day. And you set that time aside, you treat it like a part-time job, and you're your own boss. And you know that if I didn't show up to my part-time job, I would get fired. Similarly, I'm my boss. I have to be accountable. I'm actually putting this on my schedule so that maybe I'm a morning person and I know if I write from 7 to 8 a.m., I will get it finished and I'll move through the day with a sense of accomplishment. Whatever works for you, having those kinds of daily small goals, it will build up over time as you are, just fleshing it out. And then you'll be amazed at the end that I can't believe I wrote that much. It also, I think, makes it more manageable too, because oftentimes students who go to grad school, who do these kinds of programs, they have a high achieving mentality. And in doing so, there's not only a level of perfectionism there, but there also can be a sense of, I need to just think of it all right now and figure it all out. And it's really stressful and overwhelming. And that is a way in which you can really short circuit yourself. Whereas if you, again, are just accepting, you know what, I'm doing 1 hour a day and I will get there. And I have the deadlines I've set with my thesis director and we will build toward them. It's a way of setting yourself on a path that will get you to where you need to be. And especially if you're interested in going to into research as a profession, going to grad school and beyond, it's cultivating a practice that will serve you well during those times. Because again, people doing research in grad school and beyond, they too need to figure out, how am I going to work writing into an already really busy day? So that's what I always tell people.
Yeah, I was always taught in grad school, when you're approaching a dissertation, you look at it as if each chapter is a seminar paper or, a shorter little paper. So it's basically 5 of those or 6 of those stapled together, in a very kind of crude sense. But I think a similar sort of formula applies here, where you're really thinking about a large topic or somewhat of a large topic in kind of discrete sections. So if you can, hammer out these, 5 or 6 sections, and for instance, Mallory did that with she had 2 settings that she was looking at, Leeds, England, and Los Angeles, and then kind of subsections, focused on race, gender, in these different contexts. You accrue so much material, and if your analysis is kind of rich enough, it will fly by. I mean, it seems like a lot initially, but from my experience, you have at least 2 semesters to kind of do this. So it's something that you can do, piece by piece, and it will come together. And ideally, your advisor will be there to edit and to give you guidance on kind of what to do in terms of writing. So it's definitely manageable and doable.
I was just wondering if anyone had any advice for going about choosing a topic. I know it's supposed to be something you're passionate about, but I mean, I have passions, but I feel like it's hard to choose like a specific topic.
Christina, did you maybe want to? Yeah, I was gonna. You unmuted yourself, so go ahead.
I think for me, I came across my topic, like not, it was like kind of on accident. Like I was in a class and we read an article, and within that article, it talked about how like women's incarceration and like specifically its history has been like misunderstood and understudied. And from that article, I realized that I wanted to like help fill in the gap in that research, but then like I thought about how I could apply it more locally, and then I looked into Florida and like did like looked into some books and did some background research and eventually like came to my topic. So I think like it's important when you're doing a thesis or some sort of research to like find like where are the gaps in the research and like how can I help to fill that or contribute it. So that's kind of like where I started, but it's different for every person.
Yeah, and I think, Christina, I mean, you had taken multiple classes on mass incarceration and the carceral state, and so that was a clear kind of area of interest for you, and you use those classes as kind of opportunities to narrow in on an area that you might explore further in your honors thesis. And so I think that's what classes, Maria, were really interesting to you, use that as a kind of springboard to really find something that you're really passionate about and that you want to learn more about.
Thank you.
Any final questions? We have a few minutes left.
I just wanted to respond to that too. Once you know what you really, the broad area, isn't it part of the discussion you have with your thesis director or potential thesis director, sort of to whittle it down to something that's manageable? So as long as you have an area you're passionate about and you have someone in the department who is also involved in that area, I think you can approach them and start a dialogue. Is that what you normally do, Paul, when you have these supervisions?
I think so, and this kind of maybe circles back to my previous question concerning, the length of the paper. I think a lot of students are concerned about having a topic that is broad enough and that they will have enough to write about. But the truth is kind of the narrower, the better. So the more you can kind of really hone in on a topic. And that is something, as Dr. Liebeskin noted, that you talk about with your advisor and you hash out different ideas and try to find something that is manageable, but is narrow enough, or I guess is broad enough that can kind of encompass your interests, but is narrow enough that you can really kind of dig down and make a meaningful contribution.
Yeah, I wanted to second what Dr. Franklin had said about going and visiting people for office hours and so on. I had a very, very positive experience with a student who wrote a tremendous thesis on the Spanish Civil War, and she had a sort of vague sense that that was what she wanted to work on initially. So we had a conversation and we talked about some of the things that scholars are interested in who are working on the Spanish Civil War. But it turned out she also had a separate placement over the summer in where she was going to be in the United Kingdom and Ireland. So she went and did some research on, or a little bit of preliminary reading on Ireland and the Spanish Civil War, and she was able to put together a really fantastic original project based on the response of some Irish politicians to what was going on in Spain in the late 1930s. And so this was sort of an iterative process. I didn't come up with the idea for her. We just had a conversation and put together some ideas, and it developed and emerged out of that.
Well, I know we're getting close to the hour. As I said, I am sending out information of all the people who are speaking today. If you have any follow-up questions, you can email them, and I will list my office hours if you have further questions for me. If you want to relive this experience, I'll be sending Dr. Liebeskin a recording of this so you can just sit through it all and live through it all again. Now, any final questions about anything?
Okay, this is like a bit of a silly question, and I know I'm asking a lot of questions.
No, don't apologize.
But like, can I be working on like this project while I'm working on a minor? Because I'm almost done with like my my history major, but I'm also like very, very interested into like getting into education because I want to become an elementary school teacher?
I mean, from the perspective of the honors in the major program, we just require you finish it before you graduate. So whenever you fit that in, that's fine with us.
Okay.
I would expect the history department may feel the same way, but I don't want to speak for them because different departments have different takes on different things. So,
Jonathan, what do we do?
Now, you don't have to be taking, I mean, you can have your history major completed and then do the honors thesis. That's fine. What courses you're taking really don't matter. It's not related to, what you're doing while you're writing the thesis. The one thing I would advise, though, is try to avoid doing your senior seminar for the history major the same semester that you're going to write and defend your honors thesis. It's much better if you can do the senior seminar before you do the honors thesis, because the senior seminar paper is not as long as the honors thesis, so you'll have that experience under your belt of doing a 25 to 30 page paper before you tackle the 40 to 50 page paper. But also, the senior seminar is a lot of work, the honors thesis is a lot of work, and if you've got both of them coming to a head in the same semester, that's right there, that's like 4 courses in 2. And so you might be a bit frazzled. So I would recommend spacing between your senior seminar and the semester that you're going to be defending your honors thesis.
And the honors thesis is the second semester, correct?
Yes, correct.
All right.
This might be a stupid question, but do you actually I'm a junior right now, so could I do my senior seminar in the spring? Like I'm technically not a senior, if that makes sense.
Yes, if you could get it. Yeah, Claudia, you want to?
Yes. I mean, we don't have tons of classes available in the spring, as you most probably have seen, but if you can get in, certainly you can. The requirement is just that you've had at least one upper level class before you take it in history. Okay, so, but yes.
Here, so for someone's senior seminar paper, can you do a similar theme for whenever you create your thesis, like with this program?
You mean how close can it be between the two things?
Yeah, like can you still build off the same ideas, work on the same sort of projects? Is there anything that's looked down upon for doing that? Or should it be something that's completely unique?
Well, I think the academic honor policy of you cannot submit a work twice would apply to this one too, wouldn't it? You can't submit the same project for 2 different courses or even the same course twice without prior permission by the instructor of record. So it can certainly have overlap and be linked or spin-off or be tangentially related, but you can't simply change the heading and make it say the senior seminar rather than the honors thesis, and that's it. So yes, you can. I'm sure you can use research, you can use ideas, but it has to be a substantially different project. So that's my take. Yeah.
okay, well, we are at the hour. So any final questions? Thank you, everybody, for coming. As I said, I'll be sending out the email soon after this. I wish you all a safe and happy weekend. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.